Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Unfiltered podcast. Now, hopefully, this works out. I've never done anything like this, never done anything where I was recording myself like this or anything like that. And I also suck at editing. And because I'm not, I'm in this venture on my own. There we go. Anyways, so we're going to go ahead and I put a link in my Instagram. I had people plug it, and then other people just plugged it because it was something I talked with them about, and they went ahead and helped me out. That link went ahead and drew some questions in, and then I went ahead and wrote them down on this piece of paper. Now, my handwriting is... Should I curse? That's a question. I don't see why not, but anyways. I try to keep it to a minimum. I went ahead and wrote some questions down just so I could look at the piece of paper without having to just remember the questions because I wanted to answer some specifically. And as I was writing them down, I realized, wow, some of these are kind of deep. I don't know, I don't necessarily shy away from that. It's just wasn't expecting it. Especially because I don't think a lot of people know me. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but who knows? Anyways, and I'm not exactly sure how to sit here, so we're gonna go ahead and just figure this out. Now, to start off, my name is Nathaniel. 18 years old. Trying to create a digital footprint here. Also just trying to, I realized that through a lot of my life, people have asked me questions or I've given them answers to questions that they didn't necessarily ask me, but that they had. And I realized that happens so often that I might as well create something where people can try that, just whether or not they think I'm an expert or not, which I don't think I am. I think I've been through a bit of life in this, short 18 years, but I feel like my experiences have made me a bit older and have made me a bit wiser than a lot of individuals or a lot of peers that I have. Now, again, I'm no expert, but I don't see why anyone shouldn't get a second opinion, especially from what's the point of sending it to a celebrity? What's the chances that they're gonna see it, or what's the chances that they're gonna reply to it? It's like slim to none. So, anyways, we'll go ahead and get some. I'll put this on the table. Sorry about that feedback. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and start off. I got one, which was, what's my life story? And it had a part 2 to it, but we're gonna go ahead and start on a life story, I guess, because people want to know, why I even listen to you anyways, right? So lived in San Antonio for the entirety of my life. Since the day I was born, I've lived in the same exact house up until this past 2 months, which was about a month after I turned 18. I moved out, lived with my dad, moved out, now I have my own place. The moving out period with my dad was more to get a feel for actually where to move, but here we are. So I guess my life story is, again, born 18 years ago in San Antonio. I don't know if hospitals matter. I don't know my hospital anyways. But anyways, and currently, originally I started working, I guess, at about 15, legally working, I guess. I've been working my whole life, but anyways, a lot of my stuff when I was younger was all blue-collar jobs, helping people out, doing roofing. I did roofing from the time I was about 12 to 15, and then once I hit 15, I went and worked at Chick-fil-A. Worked there for about 2.5 years. a lot of great memories, a lot of bad memories, a lot of past work trauma, etc. I've tried to maintain a certain status my entire life, but that doesn't always work out. Life doesn't always turn out as you would hope. Went and worked at a Walgreens and Walgreens pharmacy for about 7 months, and turned 18 and went to work at a corporate job. Currently I'm in banking. And so my life has been pretty lavish. And I won't necessarily say it's not anymore. I'm just saying that it's now a different sort of lavishness when you got to create it now, and no one's there to, I guess, give you those experiences. You got to make them on yourself now. So growing up, from the time I was 4 years old, that's when we started taking family trips. That was my first time to Disney World. 4 years old, it sucked. I mean, I hated it, and because it's Florida, it's 90 degrees, it's hot, there's no clouds, and then when it is cloudy, it means it's gonna rain. So it's like, I hated it, to be honest. But also I was so young that I don't remember a lot of the experiences. There was there was about 9 people, 8 to 9 people that went each year, all my family. And so we would, cram into 2 hotel rooms and go to the park, which was, for 9 people, that's kind of a lot, but especially feeding that many people. So what we would do is after the parks, we'd go ahead and get out. It was about 11 or midnight, and that's when they had extended park hours before Disney went ahead and reduced their hours. And so we'd go to either McDonald's or Taco Bell, get a party pack, eat, go back to the hotel at about 1 in the morning, and then sleep from whenever you went to sleep till about 7, 8. Get up, go to the park, be at the park by like 9:30, eat Subway or Chick-fil-A in the morning, stuff like that. So as we continuously went, the experiences got better and better, and of course they got more vivid because I was older now. And once I started working, then it was pretty cool because then I could experience it on my own rather than having to, have a limit of $100 to spend the entire time, or $200 or however much it was. I don't remember. I think it was like 200, or 100 actually. And so been to Disney World about, this past time was the 10th time. Go each summer, and originally we went each summer because that's when school was officially out. So it was pretty awesome. Especially these past 2 years, I spent so much money at Disney World, and ended up making a lot of memories there. Definitely got better with time, just because I got older, I got more money, I became more interested in certain things. They have a bunch of stores, and as of the past 3 years, we've stayed at the Disney, what is it? It's not Disney Downtown, Disney Springs hotel right there. And so it's pretty cool. And it's beautiful, it's nice, it's a great experience. These past 5 years, then we made it 2 trips a year. So in the summer we'd go to Disney. In the Christmas time we'd go to New Mexico and Ruidoso. Beautiful town, and I got a lot of stuff there too. That's where I buy a lot of my leather jackets. Not because it's necessarily cheaper or anything, but it's just because it's different. I have 2-tone jackets. I got the regular all black, all brown, a light brown, and so I have a blue one. I have, so it's a whole different experience, but especially when it's with your family, it's enjoyable. And so a lot of my life has been I would say it sounds great, on paper. On paper, it sounds like, I always thought of it as, everyone wants my life, but no one really wants it. And so through those, hard times and through the lessons, that's where I learned a lot of stuff to the point where I was able to give advice to people that hadn't gone through certain events or had certain situations come up where they don't know what to do, but I've been somewhat in the same situation. And unfortunately, I think it paints me more in a negative connotation, because it's always like, it kind of takes away from someone's story at times. And I don't necessarily want to do that. I've tried toning that down, because I don't want to seem so narcissistic, and I don't want to seem so about me when someone's telling me their problems. But at the same time, I want to be able to help them. I want to be able to help as much people I possibly can, especially if like for me, I didn't know who to ask, and whenever I asked someone, they'd say, honestly, I don't know, but maybe here's what I would do if I don't know. And so that was it. And adults' advice was always, you'll get through it, just push. It's like, that, okay, that doesn't help me, that just means like, just don't harm yourself, so it's like, it doesn't do anything. And I don't want to give that advice to anybody, because I don't think just trudging through it in a lot of scenarios isn't the answer. It's a answer. It's just not the most effective thing, because then you're just waiting for time to pass and just hoping it gets better, which I think it normally gets better. It does normally get better. It's just, wouldn't it be better if you could solve it rather than sit through it and wait until it gets better? And so that's my whole thing. So I guess playing off of the narcissistic vibe, the second part of this question was about legacy, and it was, when I was younger, and I don't blame my dad for it. My parents got divorced, and unfortunately, that left my dad in a tough financial position. And when I was younger, I didn't know this. I don't know what child support is. You're 4 years old. I don't know how much it is. I don't know what he does. I don't know what they do for work. I don't know what my parents do for work. They just go, come home. That's it. And lived in the same house the whole time. And so, I don't remember an issue of not having water or not having light or anything like that. So that was it. It was just life. Growing up now, I've definitely re-examined a lot of scenarios from my past in order to contemplate whether or not are my feelings justified. Should I hold resentment for anything? Yes, I think resentment eats your soul away, but at the same time, sometimes it's justified. And I've gotten rid of a lot of resentment that I've kept bottled up for a long time. Just within these past few months. These past few months have been very humbling and very different. But for my legacy, I think the main thing I want to do is, the whole reason I'm creating a podcast is, yes, it's to help people, but I also, I do find it interesting and intriguing where my thoughts, my actions, and my words will be here for a long time, and in a few decades, maybe I can look back and see how I used to think and how I think now, and play off of certain thoughts that I have, and play off of, was I right, was I wrong in thinking like this, and why was I right and why was I wrong? When it comes to my legacy, that's what I was saying. Growing up, unfortunately, my dad was in a negative financial position. I'm sorry, I go off at times. Unfortunately, my dad was in a negative financial position, and with that being said, every time we went over, it was always, we eat the same three things. It was frozen pizza, hamburger helper, and cereal. And actually, for me, it was four things. The other thing was boiled eggs. That was it. And so, if it was a good weekend, or if it was a good week for my dad, we got spaghetti, and that was cool. But this is also 14, 15 years ago, so it's not like, I don't know how much spaghetti is now. I haven't made spaghetti. I haven't bought spaghetti. But anyways, I don't know how much a lot of that stuff is now. I know eggs were a bit high. I know 14 years ago they weren't. Or I know that, the price of relatively everything wasn't as high, but I mean, neither was your pay. But at the same time, because 14 years ago, if you were working minimum wage, actually, I think it'd be the same, but very few places pay minimum wage as of today, but it's still the same. Anyways, so growing up, I had a lot of negative emotion, because when I would be with my dad, it was, no, we can't go to Dollar Tree. No, we just can't. Or, no, what are you talking about? Dairy Queen. No, we can't do that. It's $4. What are you doing? Stuff like that. And so that made me always feel negative, because it was like, whatever I wanted, I couldn't have. If I wanted a PlayStation, it'd be a very long time until I had a PlayStation. And so, by the time the PS4 came out, which was 2012 or something like that, I just got a PS3 for my dad, and I don't discount that, because I still had a lot of fun on it, but at the same time, it was because it took a while to get. And do I hold resentment over him anymore? No, because unfortunately that's a circumstance, and that's, but that did help mold me. It helped molded me where I was absolutely fine with working as much as I possibly could in order to make sure I didn't have that life, and came into a few negative moments, or moments where, I had to put myself to the test and prove that to myself. And thankfully, I guess that piece is so ingrained in me that I was always able to pass those self-tests, always stay motivated, and always continue pushing. But going from, my mom's to my dad's, at my dad's I couldn't get anything, and at my mom's I could get anything. I just didn't. And at my mom's, my mom is currently a director at USA. I know how much she makes. I know it's, etc. And so it's enough to live on for sure. And so with that being said, I also knew how much my stepdad made, and it was about the exact same for a long time. And so where they both matched. And so growing up in a prosperous household, it came to the point where, every day we'd be eating out. We'd be, Sea Island, Marie Callender's a few times when they were still around. McAllister's, Longhorns 1 to 2 times a week, until, we started cutting back on it, because we realized, okay, maybe this much, meat wasn't so good for you. But I mean, I don't know. Anyways, and we'd go to the mall every day, just cause what else was there to do? Just go to the mall and spend some money. And it was to the point where a regular Tuesday, we got a new car. We got a new car every year, and it wasn't like we were, just refinancing or doing anything like that, or trading them in. We have all our original cars. We haven't gotten rid of one car. So piling up on cars, where, going over to my dad's, it was, he would sometimes have the, not necessarily excuse or reasoning excuse, whatever you want to call it, of, car didn't start, or, I am borrowing a car right now, and over here at my mom's, get a new car every year on a random Tuesday, just cause. And so, growing up in both situations gave me a feel for that. It's like in a movie. I've been rich and I've been poor, and I choose rich every time because, etc. Right? It gave me a feeling of a more richer life, but also of a poorer life where, didn't have deodorant when we went over to Dad's because we weren't going to be there for long, and he wasn't going to go and spend that money. Or it was the same stuff. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't play any, we didn't go out and buy games often. Just stuff like that. And again, I don't blame my father for that. I think that's a big thing that I want to be able to make clear. We all have circumstances in life, and unfortunately some were harder than others. And I think that the only thing that we can do is just continue to push. That's where I'll use that excuse. Be perspicacious enough and have enough grit in your and willpower to fight your way through a situation, but also look for opportunities to improve, opportunities to grow, and opportunities to continue rising as an individual, to continuously prosper, get better, and improve in any field you choose, whether it's physical, mental, just improve your emotional stability, or improve your lifestyle, improve your career, improve your place of employment, etc. And so the whole life story is, I've been through a lot of situations, and I've seen a lot of things, heard a lot of things, and I don't necessarily think that makes me an expert, but I've helped a few people. So why not? We're making a podcast. So anyways, I pray that this is recording still, or recording well, where you can actually hear me. So my legacy, where I want my legacy to be is, I guess we'll go ahead and continue discussing that in some of these further questions. But, for me, I want to have a legacy. And do I think everyone has a legacy? Sure, everyone may have a legacy. Everyone has an obituary, whether it's short or long or just your picture or not. Everyone has one. But for me, it's more on the impact you're able to make on people, but also at the same time, the impact that your life has on the world. Whether that's in your town, on a global scale, nationwide, doesn't matter. For me, I want to be able to rise to the highest echelons. And being in the situation that, my dad was in, gave me the ability to have a work ethic that is rare, especially for a kid. I don't necessarily like considering myself a kid, but to anyone that may watch this, I guess I'm a kid, right? I'm 18. I'm a young adult. And so with that being said, I think that based on those situations I was in and the work ethic I've garnered from it, I think I'm using that word right, I want to have such a big impact on the world that I don't think some things may get in my way, but I definitely don't plan on staying down for a long time. And for me, it's me against me. For me, I'm the only one that can mess myself up. I'm the only one that can fail me. Because for me, it's never going to be the amount of work that gets me. It's always going to be intangibles, which is relationships or people, betrayal, anything like that. but for me, I want to be in history books, not necessarily as, I mean, if I did something like cure cancer, yeah, that'd be great. Do I think it's realistic for me? No. I just want to be in the history books, like how, I guess, every Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, every great was, even Michael Jackson. For their music, but also for who they were as an individual and what they believed and what they did with their life. I want to be known on a global scale, and that is a hard thing to do, I think, but I guess that's why I'm here. Here's going to be the first documentation of me, and so hopefully I can grow my channel, and hopefully I can grow my social group and following. We'll get more into the life story and the legacy as certain lessons come and as certain things, I say certain things or do certain things, you'll pick up on a little bit more of that. But I guess that's a general synopsis with some little details spread out here and there that is good enough. Let me get some water real quick. Wow, I really hope you can see all that. Now I know why freaking comedians keep water on them, because my mouth is dry as hell from talking all this much. Anyways, let's see. We'll start with like some generic questions. I think some of these were more generic than others, of course. My favorite book. Now, I will say, I hate reading. I can't read. Not that I can't, I just sometimes refuse to. And with that being said, I've challenged myself with that. And so I say, okay, if I can't physically read, I'm at least going to listen to an audiobook. And with that, I've done that a lot. And when I worked at Walgreens for a bit, or whenever I drive, most of the time I either listen to a podcast or an audiobook rather than music. For me, it's just, for some reason, I love music. I'm a big fan of music. But for me, it makes me feel less productive if I'm listening to music rather than an audiobook or a podcast. I just feel like I learn more, doing one thing than the other. And so my favorite book, though, there was one audiobook I listened to, and it was a 9-hour audiobook, which was Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by 50 Cent. And that was a great book just because a lot of it is, the entire book is about lifestyle and work ethic. And not necessarily, lifestyle to a degree, but more work ethic and a hustler's mindset. And so seeing all of that, the lessons I took from that, on how keeping up appearances, but also at the same time having discipline, dedication, and continuously grinding, and where that gets you, and seeking opportunities and networking and being able to do all of that, where it can get you, but also the grit, the perspicacity that Curtis has is phenomenal. Just listening to, like, one part was, he doesn't drink. So when he would go out, he didn't want to, ruin the mood. So he would tell the waitress or whoever, right, was doing drinks, to continuously refill his drink, but refill it with something else, right? And so just so that it looked like he was drinking rather than what he was actually doing, just because he would use that to his advantage too, because when people drink, they talk, they tell stories, and he doesn't want to be so messed up that he isn't paying enough attention, but he's also always keeping an eye on the room. And so for a bit, I've done that, except I guess, how do I do this? Hypothetically, I drink a lot. Hypothetically, well, not a lot. Hypothetically, I only do it, I would only do it when going out to social events, because I don't like social events. I don't like going out. I don't do that stuff. So whenever I do and try to force myself to bond with people or to not be, as I've been called, a CPU, it helps. And so now I don't do it a lot, but just enough where the anxiety goes down, the anxiousness, and I can't take a joke when I'm anxious. Doesn't happen. I'll be straight faced with you while you're telling all the jokes in the world, and I just won't feel anything. And so, because I can't, I'm not worried about the joke, I'm worried about everything else. So that's what that would be used for, where, okay, now I can relax a bit, but I'm still right there enough where I'm still paying attention to everything, but I can at least feel something where I can laugh now. And so that book, definitely recommended. It's the longest book I ever listened to, or I guess read, but also the only one that I would necessarily say as of right now would be really worth reading and taking inspiration from. Now there's a lot of books that I think are great. I read a bit of Master and Margarita because Jordan Peterson talks about it a lot. I've read a few of Nietzsche books, and The Prince. I read The Prince, by Niccolo Machiavelli, and so just some of these books, they're great. I in Master and Margarita, it was a bit tough because I was like, okay, starting out, it's like I don't get it. This is a tough read, and that's how some books are. For me, I give it about 100 pages, but I don't like reading books that are fiction or realistic fiction or science, anything fiction. Anything with fiction in its name, if it did not happen, it doesn't interest me. And the reason being is because, now I say that, but Master and Margarita isn't a true story, and, Night isn't a true story by Wiesel. I think it's E. Wiesel. Actually, I think that one is partially a true story, but I don't remember. Anyways, but at the same time, the reason I have that rule is because I have so much content in my head that I have a hard time filtering it. So with that being said, I want all the content in my head to be at least real and factual, rather than, I saw something about this, but it was a play on it, and so it's half real, half not, and then I gotta go look up what was real and what wasn't, and then fix that in my head so that bringing up the subject, I know, don't bring this up because this actually didn't happen, or something like that. It's just something that I do, and it helps me with, I guess, being a little more intellectual, because I have a hard time controlling my thoughts at times. So if anything's going to be in my head, it's going to be fact, which does make for a bit boring stuff, but at the same time, I think it's interesting because you're more well-versed in certain topics, in certain situations, in certain subjects, or topics, whatever. And so I think that is interesting. That's something that I, at times, use to my favor. So that would be my favorite book. Moving into the next question, it was favorite movie. Now, my favorite movie of all time, I have a list. Number one is The Wolf of Wall Street. And The Wolf of Wall Street is because that is exactly, well, I don't want to say exactly, but it's pretty much a replica of what I want my life to be. I think who wouldn't want to make that much money? Who wouldn't want to be with the most beautiful women and call them your wife and have a 100-foot yacht and with a helicopter pad on it and stuff like that? But at the same time, I think one of the greatest things about that is that that's a true story. And so that is what interests me the most. That is something that plays into the life story and legacy, is because going from it, I've been a rich man, I've been a poor man. I've been both. And it just is invigorating. It's intoxicating to watch that movie because it's so motivating. It's so, wow, that is what I want. I need to get out there. I need to do something. I need to work. And so I love that movie so much. Also, doesn't hurt that Margot Robbie's in it and that Leonardo DiCaprio is such an amazing actor and that it's funny. You know what I mean? But a majority of the reason why it's my favorite movie is because of the lifestyle and because of how it's also a whole psychological thing. Bringing up the topic of, okay, sure, this may be a bad guy, sure, but he's not the worst. True, he just, let's just say, scammed a lot of people, but also, damn, he's a good salesman. Because you can think about it as he's manipulative, he's Machiavellian, he's a lunatic, he's insane, he's whatever, right? But he's damn good at his job, you know what I mean? And so I think that there's a lesson that you could take from anybody, no matter how bad they are, and say they were good at that thing. And that's something I do. And do I do it with some inappropriate people or conversations? Sure, at times. But I think that there's something to be learned from absolutely everybody, that put them all together, take the best trait from each individual, put them all together and become that, and where will you be? And so you'll be a little, I think, delusional at times, but because they clash so much at times, but because you can't be the cutthroat person but also be the nicest person ever in the room. You can at times, but it's hard to separate. So I think that, but regardless, phenomenal movie. Going into some bigger questions, let me go ahead and I'm just gonna keep getting up a bit because I'm gonna see if the camera's still on. There you go. Okay. Sorry, I'm just hoping it's everything's fine. I've been recording for a while. Wow. Okay. And I'm only 3 questions in. Purpose. It was about what is the purpose of life, and the key to a meaningful life. Both are, I think, sort of play into each other. The purpose of life. Now, ask some people and they'll say there is no purpose in life. You live, you die. We're on this speck in the middle of a galaxy where there are way bigger specks. We're not even a calculable, like even a thought to anything in the entire galaxy. We're nothing. So what's the point of the world? Nothing. But now, is that true? Maybe a bit. I understand the rationale. Do I agree with it? No. I don't necessarily take the same approach. I think that, the purpose of life is to, I don't necessarily want to say the cliche thing of changing the world or making the world a better place. Yeah, I mean, I think that we should leave the world a better place than what we found it, or try to make a difference to the point where we're able to improve the future generations. I think that, one of the biggest purposes is in your own life is, at the end, we don't all have the same coffin. We all go in a box or wherever we're sprinkled, but we all have different legacies. I think we should do things that we like, but we should also do things that give us the biggest return on investment. And I think that if I had the opportunity to do the job that I absolutely love for the rest of my life free, or a job I freaking hated but I only had to do it for 10 years and I would be good to go the rest of my life, for me it's kind of a tough situation. But at the same time, we live in a monetary environment, in a capitalistic world. I would pick 10 years of hell rather than sliding by the rest of my life waiting to die and just being happy at work, just because I know my selfishness in my life, because I wanted to enjoy it, may mean that my kid has to suffer because I don't leave him anything. The purpose of life is also family. It's children. It's who carries your name. What do they do? Because every father has, well, not necessarily every father has a son, but every person carries a last name. And hopefully they get the opportunity to have a kid, and now that kid carries on the family legacy. It's why, sigils were a thing, or crests, and why, you went to war and you held up your family's sigil, or why you even wore it. It was because it was a representation of your house. It was representation of who you were, who your family was, and exactly when you slaughtered your enemies, when you mowed them down, you wanted them to see who took their house down. I think a lot of the world was conquering, and now it's conquering on a different level. It's conquering on a financial level, it's no longer conquering land, it's conquering skill sets, it's conquering specific things that are going to put you and your family ahead, conquering certain fields. And I think a big purpose in life, if no one could have, if you can't have kids, I mean, that's unfortunate. It doesn't mean, to eliminate yourself. I don't necessarily know how to say these things because I know YouTube will take them down, but it doesn't mean to do any of that. It just, I think that it's very important. Family is very important, and it's also very important to continue your bloodline. It's procreation is the whole reason why we're here. As in, literally standing here is because someone procreated. And so I mean, what bigger thing in this world is there? You can conquer everything, sure, but if you have nobody to leave it to, or nobody to take the reins once you're gone, your legacy may live in a history book, but that's it. And so once that book's dust, you are too. There's no one left that has your last name. And unfortunately, I mean, sometimes that's just how it happens anyways, whether, people change their names, or, the woman gets married and say she takes her husband's name, and, once they have a kid, it's going to be in the husband's name, and now your name kind of is gone, considering if you only had the daughter or something like that. But I want my name to continue, but I want it to be changed. My family is not necessarily a family that I think is the greatest representation of peak human performance. I want my family name to change its meaning rather than staying where it is. And I think that maybe not me, but at least I think my kid with a little bit of me will be able to do that. And so a key to a meaningful life, love is a great thing. Love is a powerful thing. Is it the entire key to life? Maybe not. But because if someone loves you, that makes life so much easier. It makes life so much better and worth living. But it also doesn't solve all your problems. It can help a lot. It can heal a lot. It could do a lot of things, but it doesn't solve every problem you have. So there are multiple keys to life, but I think love is a big one that goes at times unlisted because we get caught in what we're trying to do. But I'm not exactly sure where I'd rank that. I'd rank it pretty high, though. I think if I had the ability to have someone that I love wake up next to me, or I wake up next to them every day for the rest of my life, and when I come home, I don't have to worry about what they've been doing, who they've been seeing, if I'm gonna lose them, that alone makes life so much more easier, just knowing someone's there for you. And I think that's a powerful thing to have anybody feel. Everyone wants to feel loved. Some people don't have that ability to do it, and some people do it differently, but regardless, a lot of the human population has emotions, and I've had a hard time dealing with that in general. And I think that even though that may be the case, I think that the whole point of life, if love, if family, if all that stuff didn't exist, it'd be very hard to continue just living, because then people don't necessarily always live for themselves. Not always. Some people do, but not everyone is designed to live for themselves. But when you have nobody else to live for, that's when it's pretty difficult. So I think that one of the main things on that is try to keep your family close. Try to visit them. Try to tell them you love them. And just try to have a relationship with them. And that'll make life a lot easier. And it also doesn't taint your soul as much when you have a relationship with them, and when you feel like you can talk to them and have people by you that love you and are there for you. Another one of these was, is everyone valuable? Very different ways to go about saying this, but do I think everyone is valuable? Not as valuable as the next person. I don't think everyone is equally as valuable, but I do think that everyone has a specific part to play. I was very judgmental of everything and absolutely everybody until I heard something, and it said, regardless of who someone is, they all have a part to play. And I was like, damn, that's true. Like, no matter what you do, you affect somebody. You have a part to play in somebody's life, something's life. And so, but do I think, I'm as valuable as a billionaire? No. but I do think that everyone can be valuable. Now, not everybody is, because there's certain individuals that don't do anything or whatever, right? But on a bigger level, I think everybody has some sort of value that they can bring to life in general. Another one was, does happiness matter? No. Yes and no. Happiness matters in certain situations. You don't want your life to be miserable. So happiness is important, but is it the most important thing? No. I think it matters, it just isn't the most important thing. I would trade my happiness to be in time as successful as ever. I'd be miserable for that, because I know I may be miserable, but the success is going to be what I give my kid. My kid may not be miserable with that. So it matters. It's just not the thing that matters the most in life. So don't always try to chase happiness. Try to chase things that will give you the biggest ROI and will mean the most in the long term, especially for your future and your kids. One of my biggest failures was my first job. It taught me so much. It was the greatest job, in my opinion, I've ever had. Working at Chick-fil-A, it was the greatest job ever. But I had so many failures there that mounted, and I wish that they didn't reach the point that they did. And unfortunately they did. I wish I could take it all back. I wish I could change how everything went, but at the same time, I think that they were important lessons that I learned, and that made me go to a deeper level than I had ever experienced up to that point. But the bounce back happened as well, and that life is always a roller coaster, and life for me has always and continuously has been a roller coaster of positive and negative, and that's where I'm at. My biggest failure from all of that was how I treated people, what I made them think of me, and what I could have done differently. And it kind of goes towards high school too. I wish I would have done a lot of things differently, but unfortunately, if I had the opportunity to redo it, I'd redo it differently. But I don't have that opportunity. No one does. So, one of the things that I changed the most about myself, and that changed my entire aspect of life, was, again, that yes, not necessarily everyone is a terrible person, but also I don't need to judge everything for everybody. I can judge it if I'm going to do business with them, if I'm going to trust them with a lot of stuff, sure. But I don't necessarily need to judge them if they're just going to be someone passing by. I don't need to have everyone have an opinion of me and have that opinion to be negative. And vice versa, I don't necessarily need to have an opinion or need to have a negative opinion of everybody that walks by. So I was right. Another thing that went here is work-life balance. They were saying that, they have a busy life and they're having a hard time when it comes to having that work-life balance and being able to separate that. And so I took that as, work comes home and isn't left at work. I've had a lot of that. And one quote that I took to heart was one from Kobe Bryant about work-life balance, which was, doesn't exist. When you want to be the greatest at something and when you want to be the best in general, there is no work-life balance. Your work is your life. Now, does that necessarily apply to like Chick-fil-A? No. There can be work-life balance there because what you're doing isn't necessarily what the same thing an NBA player is doing, and your pay shows that. I think it depends what you're doing, but it also depends where you're trying to get. If you're trying to become the greatest ever employee that ever graced the front doors of a Chick-fil-A establishment, okay. But if you're not, you can handle that work-life balance. I think that you shouldn't all be about work, because what I'm all about work, but I'm all about work so that in the future I don't have to be. So there will be work-life balance, but it also depends on what you're trying to do. If you're just trying to have fun and don't care about work, I mean, maybe you should care about work a little bit more, but at the same time, maybe where you're working isn't necessarily the place for you. Maybe you should replace that job that you have with something that's going to challenge you a bit more and make you apply yourself a bit more, and is going to make you an overall more competent and driven individual. But that's work-life balance. Not exactly sure how else to go about that. Future projects. So I have this channel, which is going to be gaming channel and podcast channel. I don't do gaming. Majority of my life, played video games. I was probably going to get in trouble. So I learned to live without gaming a lot. So much so that I would insult those that played gaming. Because of that, I told myself, you know what? I'm going to end up being one of those people. But I didn't want to play video games because I knew I was taking away from certain things I could be doing. So instead, I created content rather than consumed it. So do I think I'm as funny as every YouTuber that is popular? No. Do I think I'm gonna be as popular as every YouTuber? No. But I figured I might as well create content than just consume it 24/7. So that's why I created the gaming channel, and it also did that because it's a mindset shift in going in what I hate doing and going and doing it for the mass populace to see, or whoever, the public to see. I did insult a few individuals even as of a year ago on it, and I don't think they'll ever see these videos or listen to this podcast, but if they were to, I would say I'm sorry, and that they are a big reason why I even started doing gaming in the first place, is because honestly I felt bad for insulting them. And I realized that through insulting them was one of the main reasons why people didn't like me, especially on such a broad subject of gaming. So that's just how it went. And so I challenged myself to make a gaming channel, and I'm trying to do it. And I'm trying to not find it entirely useless or whatever in the process. So I'm trying to stay engaged, which is why I'm posting a lot. I'm posting like once a day or once every 2 days, I think, if I remember correctly. Future projects, yeah. So the gaming channel, the podcast channel, working on digital marketing, working on a part-time job, working my full-time job, and working on actually having somewhat of a life. Do I want to work a lot? Yeah. Do I want to make a lot of money? Of course. But I also want to have some experiences, some fun at some times. Not maybe all the time. It doesn't always have to be about having fun, but sometimes just so I don't lose sight of what the world is or what it has to offer in the search of fighting the abyss. Career. So my career, again, I'm in banking right now. I plan on doing that for about 2 years, moving into either insurance or a higher banking institution, or of course, depending on what position I hold within the company in those 2 years and what I can leverage that into. But I love my job. I mean, my job is stressful at times, and sure, but I'd rather do this than my past job, and I don't know. It's higher stakes as well, and I want to be able to compete in a corporate world at such a young age rather than saying it wasn't for me. So it's a challenge each and every day, but it's one that I'm willing to push boundaries on. Why am I worth listening to? So, like I said, it was kind of in the beginning as well. I do have a lot of experiences. That doesn't necessarily deem me a master at everything wholly on this planet, but at the same time, I think that people deserve to be heard and people deserve to have an opportunity to not just have to deal with their problems all by themselves. That's all I'm here for, is if someone wants to have someone who semi knows some things on what he's talking about in his short life, that's what I'm here for. Am I here so that everyone can come to me and think that I'm a god and that I'm going to solve every one of their problems? No. But whatever I can say, I think whatever I can say that can help someone, I'm willing to do. That was some of the questions that I found. A lot of them were kind of repeat of those, so I just jumbled them up. Some of them I didn't understand. I'm also an individual that, when it comes to grammar and spelling and all that, if it's not spelled correctly, if I gotta interpret it, I get annoyed very quickly. So I'll just skip it. Please try to spell everything properly, and please try to stay engaged as well. I appreciate just this many people even answering the post or even daring to comment. I hope that on some degree, I don't think that this was so impactful, like, wow, what he just said was insane. But I think that those will come. I wanted this one to be a more lighthearted topic one, one that invoked some thought, but at the same time, you may have disagreed with some of the stuff I said. Who knows? But I kept some questions light. Some questions I didn't include, and those were ones that were a bit more personal, and I plan on using those in the next episode. So don't necessarily think that I just didn't care to answer your question. It's just this one I wanted to be a little more lighthearted. So hopefully you enjoyed this. I think this was like maybe an hour and a half or an hour, 20 minutes of a podcast, maybe an hour, I don't know. I had to do a lot of different stuff because it's like 50 gigabytes worth of footage from my phone that I'm having to upload. Hopefully my editing can get better as well. But I tried to have it where there may have been a small lapse or a repeat of words continuing off a thought. But I had to hold that thought for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then act like it was the exact same thing, which it kind of was because I can get back into the frame of mind a bit quickly, but at the same time, that's why the flow may have messed up a bit. So I do apologize about that. But enough of me talking for this episode. I'm going to try doing a bit more gaming in the meantime. If y'all have any recommendations for any games to play, no, I'm joking. Send them through, but also may not get to all of them, may not do most of them. I don't necessarily want to spend too much money on gaming, especially when I'm trying to do stuff on the side as well. So I do apologize about that, but if y'all enjoy, leave a like, subscribe, do whatever, right? I don't know. Thank you. Have a great night, y'all.